What's up? This is Cedric McMillan. Listen, get your ass down to the MD Supplement Superstore. Peace.
Typical person getting ready for a show is full of self-pity. Oh, wah, I gotta wake up and do cardio. Wah, wah. This guy here, come on.
He's worried about not being hospitalized.
Seriously, they took out 80% of his liver, gave him 2 years to live, and instead of sitting there crying about it, you know, this is inspiration right here.
The actual struggle this year was trying not to go too hard. I remember everybody sending me motivational texts and this and that, and I was thinking, geez, can you guys just actually send something unmotivated, because I'm getting too amped up and I don't want to screw something up again. So, but yeah, I guess everything I've been through, and in the actualization that I may never be able to bodybuild again for so long and so many nights, and the actualization of, man, I can actually die in 2 years, and everything I've ever wanted to do, I'm never going to be able to do again. I'll never be able to get on stage. I'll never be able to feel that intensity of a contest prep and that grind and that resistance. So every single day that it's hard for me, I think back to that feeling, and I'll never forget that. I love the struggle now. I love to be starving. I love when I leave after a training session, I feel sick to my stomach, and I don't bitch about any of it because I'm so blessed to even be here right now, and I'm just so thankful that every single day I wake up and I'm able to train. So realistically, if anything else goes wrong on my day, and if I'm healthy, life is good.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, see, a lot of what I'm trying to do is keep my heart rate up a little bit, so I'm burning a little bit of calories through my training.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do as much cardio, so I keep my legs a little bit fuller.
Yeah.
I usually don't train this light, this fast.
2 weeks out exactly today, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks today. So considering, gonna switch it up a little bit.
How you doing? Brendon Doherty. Just here training some arms today. 2 weeks out from the Jay Cutler Classic in Boston. Just wanted to explain a little bit about my story this year. This prep's been different than any other. I was actually diagnosed a year ago with liver cancer, and been through one hell of a year. And just try to stay true to bodybuilding and my passion. And throughout everything, I feel like actually the discipline and the drive in the sport kind of kept me on track and kept me through some of the more difficult times. So
I remember always thinking that people would talk about training a little lighter, squeezing a muscle. They never believed it, but I've actually been training that way upper body, and I noticed a little better detail.
more or less, I felt good all the way throughout my prep. I was getting ready to do the Cutler. I planned to get it right this time. I was going to move on to either Atlantic States or Junior USA, depending on how I looked. So coming into 2 weeks out, I actually was coming home from class, going to school for nursing, stopped to go tanning, came out of the tanning bed, ate a meal, fish and green beans, started getting a stomach ache. So instantly I thought food poisoning, maybe I was getting the flu. Went home, it was really unlike me to take the day off from training. I laid in bed, pain kept getting worse and worse. I think it went on for about 12 hours. Finally, I made the decision I was going to go to bed and sleep through it, see how I felt in the morning. I woke up in the morning, still had stomach pains. Figured I'd at least stick to my cardio. Did my cardio 8. Sat down to take a nap, and I woke up and the pain was just unreal. So a good friend of mine said, "You're going to the emergency room." So I went to the emergency room. By that time, I was in a cold sweat, pain like you couldn't believe. My stomach was starting to distend. It was almost looked like I was pregnant. Went to the emergency room. Took me straight in, cut the line. Long story short, they did some scans. Doctor came back in, said we have a helicopter on the way. You're going to Boston. You're internally bleeding severely. So they took me into Boston. Immediately, I was drugged up. I kind of don't really remember too much, but they brought me in for a surgery. What actually had happened was I had massive liver tumors that I've had for a long time, never knew about. It's something that was genetically I was disposed to. They got worse over time, to the point that the pressure inside of one of them actually burst. The artery was bleeding, so I was spilling massive amounts of blood into my stomach, and that blood is actually an irritant in your body, so I started getting the stomach pains or swelling. Could always be worse. At least I'm able to train.
Exactly.
That's the good part. So anyways, they stopped the bleeding. I spent a week in ICU. While I was in there, they told me I was going to have to get surgery. They're going to have to cut me open. They were going to have to go in and remove a portion of my liver that had the tumors on it. But before they did that, they needed 6 to 8 weeks for the bleeding to clear itself and for the organs to stop from the swelling, and the swelling needed to subside. So we waited. This was end of April. We waited till it was around the 20th of June. Went in what they call a liver resection, and they removed actually 80% of my liver on the right side lobe in the attached gallbladder. Went in, that was a surgery. They cut me from my oblique all the way up to my sternum, down to the left side. That was about a week recovery. Following that, I had a 6-week post-op visit where I thought that everything was going to be fine. I thought I was going to be clear. Went back in. They actually told me from the pathology results that the tumors were all cancerous in my liver. So they immediately scheduled another surgery to go back through the same procedure over again. So I had to recover from the first one. As soon as I was recovered enough, I went back in September, had the same surgery done over again. They removed the remaining portion of my liver, which they didn't get to last time. So they cut out one section, a new piece grew back. Now they cut out the part that they couldn't get to. I left surgery, I came home. I remember looking at myself about 2 weeks later in the mirror, and I had drains hanging out of me, and my legs were just covered in water retention, and my muscle was just gone. I remember sitting there talking to my girlfriend at the time, and just actually shaking my head in disgust and thinking 12 years or 13, 14 years of just hardcore training, just down the drain like that. Throughout this whole surgery with my stomach, I had to learn a lot of ways to train without my core, because I couldn't really use my abdomen for so long. And in a lot of ways it really benefited me, because I can squeeze the muscle a lot more, can really isolate things without putting a whole lot of body into it. And I've noticed that my waist is actually stay a little smaller that way. I don't know if that's my own crazy theory or
I bet it's...
whatever it is.
I'd imagine you discovered how much the core is actually involved in everything.
Exactly. Whatever it is, I dropped down to a medium belt from a large.
Huh. Wow.
Just put on the last hole, so if that's bro science, I'll take it. I actually started in my head in September this prep for this show, but I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to sound crazy. So I had my food packed. I was up moving as soon as I could. I got home after 4 days. I was supposed to be there for a week. The day I got home, I walked in the door, I got on my treadmill, and I started walking, and I figured I'll do 10 minutes. If I can do 10 minutes, and tomorrow I'll do 12 minutes. And eventually I was up to doing an hour of cardio a day. I was eating my meals really clean, but of course, when you remove your liver, you have to be really careful. Your protein intake has to be extremely low. Your fat intake has to be low. I don't have a gallbladder. And on top of that, I have cancer, so sugar and carbohydrates really make things grow. So I had to adopt a whole different lifestyle eating, and on top of that, like I said, they told me I had cancer. Following the last surgery, they basically told me there was nothing else they could do for me. They had removed as much of my liver as they could. Chemotherapy is not responsive to a liver. Back in September, they gave me 2 years to live. So I remember sitting there with my mom and dad, and my mom was crying, and we came home, and I remember thinking, I'll do whatever I got to do to outlive my parents. So that was the first thing on my mind, was that I needed to develop an approach, because Boston Medical, some of the best hospitals around, had nothing for me. So I started to look at ideas that people might think were crazy, that I thought maybe were crazy at the time. Looked into vegetable juice and Chinese medicine, green supplementation, alkalinizing diets, the whole 9 yards, low protein, all organic. So everything I mentioned there, I switched over to, and I thought, all right, this is my goal. I'm gonna whoop this thing's ass. I'm gonna prove to people, just like with bodybuilding, that if you set your mind to something, you can do it. And if somebody's done it, then I was gonna do it.
Probably the biggest thing that I notice in my training is arm and leg training. I always have weak arms, and it's my weak point. And I always thought it's because I was physically weak on them, so I'd always try to heave weight. And after my stomach was cut, I'd have to sit there with a 10 and a 5 and really squeeze the muscle. And I realized that after doing that for a couple months, my arms actually look a lot rounder than they ever have. So I was kind of forced into actually figuring that out.
So I set out heavy vegetable juicing, Chinese medicine. I had fasting days where I would do nothing but the juicing, and the whole point was to put my body in a state where cancer couldn't thrive. So I got the news in October. I had 2 years to live. I went back in December 15th for a scan, and all the 5 tumors that were remaining were just about gone off the scan. So things were moving in the right direction. That was one positive step. So I figured my passion is bodybuilding, and that's what keeps me on the grind. That's what keeps me on the straight and narrow. So my ultimate goal was to keep myself happy through this all. So I was going to try to incorporate a contest prep into my cancer treatment diet. I figured it was close enough. The only thing that was void in my cancer treatment diet was protein. So I figured if I could do enough to offset the fact that I was going to add a little more protein in my diet, I could make this work. So no supplements, no pre-workout supplements, no protein powders, no vitamins, no nothing. Green foods, raw green vegetables, super green foods, spirulina, chlorella, things of that nature. So I started this prep right around January 1st, but I was very, very cautious on overdoing the cardio, beating my immune system down. My protein intake was still really low. I was still doing heavy vegetable juicing, which even though there were greens, it was probably an extra 1,000 calories a day. So my progress was kind of slow, but I made a promise to myself that up until March 5th, I had a second MRI and scan on March 5th. I was going to stick to this plan until March 5th. If things came out clear, I was going to drop the juicing down a little bit, bump my protein up, try and take it to the next level with my conditioning for the show. So this was at 7 weeks out. I was really behind. So I had to adopt a lot of new methods in it. A lot of things that are pretty complex, but basically it came down to eating a lot of organic greens, wild-caught fish. I still do fasting days. I do detoxes every night. I don't get up in the middle of the night to eat anymore. I do a 12-hour fast every night, doing things like apple cider vinegar flushes. I do aloe vera cleanses, all different types of things, basically just to take the stress off my liver. I'm just thankful to be doing this and be healthy. And like I said, with everything I'm doing, I actually feel the best I've ever felt right now. I'm not tired, I'm not fatigued. I'm actually not even hungry from all the greens I'm eating and the way that my diet's set up. So the plan is to go do the show. I just want to show up at my absolute best. That's going to be a huge win for me. Kind of wanted to close this door on something that was still open from last year when I was 2 weeks out. And a lot of people ask me what I'm going to do afterwards, if I want to try and do an after show, do Team U or something like that. My real goal is June 5th. I have another scan coming up. So it's back to reality after the show. It's not eating more food. It's not trying to get big. I'll probably actually try and lose some weight. I'm going to drop my protein down. I'm going to get back to a lot of organic, vegetarian eating, some fasting days. So that's the main goal right now. But like I said, man, I remember thinking I was going to give up bodybuilding because it was probably the best thing for me, but in reality I found that bodybuilding is actually what got me through all of this stuff. And I can honestly say, when people ask me, man, how the hell are you so strong? How do you do this? Well, honestly, it's all because of bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is a sport about doing everything you don't want to do at the moment for the greater good of what's going to come down the road, for some sort of better turnout in the end. So all the struggle I put up with and all the torture that I put myself through to get myself not necessarily clear of cancer, but free of it growing wild in my body like it was, keeping it under control. All that discipline was basically things that I learned through bodybuilding, nutrition, how to take care of my body, how nutrition affects it, and basically just how to stick to things. This is a show, I'm coming back. It's completely egoless. It's definitely not what I could be at my best, but the biggest thing I feel and the self-gratification I feel is, given the circumstances that I'm in right now, this is the absolute best that I can be at this moment. So to me, in my own heart, that's winning. And, you know, I'm just hoping that the next 2 weeks go well and I show up healthy on stage. And I just want to thank everybody who supported me. I had massive amounts of people, you, Ron, Jose, a lot of people from the industry who have better things to do, who have a lot of importance in the sport. Everybody, my friend Stacy Beavers and my friend Sahil Maripori organized a huge fundraiser for me back in December. They had a local GNC up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We had a huge turnout. It was great. Everybody got together. They donated, raised almost $5,000. Shelby Starnes, who you guys are all really familiar with, after the fundraiser, I came home. He had posted something up on his Facebook, actually, raffled off 3 of his contest preps, and all the proceeds went towards me. So on top of a great day, came home to that. Shelby's somebody I truly respect. The guy's an absolute machine, and he pulled through on the clutch like that with didn't really even expect any credit for it, but I'm giving it to all you guys and anybody else who helped me out. Because in all honesty, in that 3-month period where I stayed home and I went all out on everything I needed to do the best way I could possibly do it, I probably used exactly those funds that were donated towards me. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to shortcut anything. I have these funds. People supported me, and I owe it to these people to do the absolute best. So for this show, more or less I'm doing it to try and inspire people who have watched this whole process, that it doesn't matter what people tell you can do. It's basically what you put your mind to and what you believe you want to do. So throughout this whole process, if I doubted myself, hell yeah, I doubted myself the whole time. But I just knew from past experience that I was just going to stick to the plan, and in the end it was going to pay off. And if it didn't, at least I'd have that peace of mind. But I'm sitting here 2 weeks out and things are good. I'm ready to roll. So thank you guys, and anybody who helped the cause or anybody that's reached out to me. Thank you.
What's up? This is Cedric McMillan. Listen, get your ass down to the MD Supplement Superstore. Peace.